Now we know that hope is, and hopeful action is our lifeline. It's so important. So, Your Holiness, my question is this: how can we continue to adopt a positive outlook and maintain hope today with this so many worried about the future of our planet?
Şeyda, sablu busu togu cheche dus tewe yena, chigi zhama shiwaru mungu shivu ji tongdaya chigi. Sata de, ngen nam yu dakwa di, chigdi maa tuan she, ngara gomi gyagi yu. Tizalo zhi sege nawa seche ne, ranga lana nebe gyuru rashindu, sisum jida mali dene gewe war, dode tanya tempe doki gogol zho. Ngati ngoden jidi buji tawya ge rao gyagi yorda. Dagdo gogol tobe, samde yimi ki rao gume bala nijanga gyagirshi. Teko dishi suji sangye rikshani mali bala loye pabar shiwa angins. Da chanshi usabda donyi ki dawa yimdo sungdu zhani. Guzu tuji shoyang kawo gyagyo wa ngangba gyago teni gyago ngangba yi. Dundu tani gyawe lungu shukdo ki gyawe yonda gyazu paru chodong zho shani. Ngati tsikshi di dakwa dendegi yu. Nga rei di chigi ko nga di guzu chanshi usabda tanda chanshi usabda mungshibshi da yodeba chiri. Dadi dosi yargya dani dabsha shokpa sungden na shinshani. Eni sanji ki sugu tangpa da chugu tangpa zhuya ki di simshu shi kikidwa. Eni tsirimni tsiru sang tangwarwa. Chasanga didi yindu anda tsikshi digi simnanglia shivu chigi rawa laya da nyingdu laya pe kashimodo. Di tane eni juju suya diri chisi nanga na wadang zhawa chisi na gyoba tisi dani na gyo na zhaya dunga sawar shao sani. Ta di digi shivu chigi simli ya boba da chiga samba sanggoyong ya shivu kiawa duwa.
So what is really required alongside hope is really a focus on cultivating courage. The problem with losing hope is sometimes when we see problem, our mind tend to lock on to the problem. And when we are too oriented by problem alone, then actually we see many problems everywhere. So of course, problem is there, but you need to adopt a mindset, an outlook that does not get just fixated on the problem, so that to the point where it leaves no space for hope and courage. So and the courage is key. And here His Holiness cited some of the passages. As a Buddhist, one of the primary aspirations is to, tread on the path to enlightenment. And and part of the path, that's a long path. We're talking about, cultivating bodhicitta to an optimal level, cultivating the wisdom of emptiness to an optimal level, and combining these two, wisdom and compassion, compared to like two wings of a great bird, which will then help someone soar the high into the space of reality and travel beyond to the shores of Buddhahood. So that's the aspiration as a Buddhist one has. And if you think about what the objective and the goal here is, it's an ambitious goal. But by recognizing that the basis for all of this is found in me, right here, and I can do it, I can cultivate it, and also recognizing some of the progress that you make already along the path, it gives you more hope and more courage and more confidence. So I think there are definitely things we can learn from this kind of basic psychology of the need to bring courage as well as confidence to, as an underpinning for hope. So that, so here, a couple of things that's happening. One is to open up so that your mind is not fixated on the problem alone.
Yes.
And then you need a sense of courage, thinking that I can do something. And then along with that, also needs to have a sense of confidence based on a long view. So those are things which help me in my own kind of journey. And this is something that could also have a sort of a general lesson here.
Thank you, Your Holiness. It's really profound to think about the way in which wisdom and compassion are something that, in a sense, we have within ourselves, like we have a fundamental capacity for this. It's really remarkable in a way, the capacities that we have as humans. But also, as you know, there are many thousands of people watching us now. And with that wisdom and compassion, one question, of course, well, what do we do next in a practical way? What kinds of actions should we take? So with that in mind, I'm going to again ask Professor Eppel to ask our question. We're going to jump over a couple of questions and go to question number 6 now.
I ask a question many of us have, and this is about wise action. Our crises open the door for large societal change. And at times I think I'm so lucky to be alive at this moment on this planet in such dire need, because we have the opportunity to live the most purposeful life. Our actions can have huge effects on future generations to try to help them exist or have a better life. But we may not change enough, and that we don't know if our actions together will happen soon enough. And so this plagues us with doubt. But if we truly believe that our actions together matter, if we truly believe in the oneness of humanity, and we adopt that in our actions, this opens the opportunity for huge transformational changes. We know from research that we don't have to change everyone. Small group of people with strong moral values, uniting their hearts, minds, and action, can lead social movements, can create big change. And so this is called a social tipping point. I hope that we are near a social tipping point together. We know, Your Holiness, that you work very hard, teaching, writing op-eds and books, and every day renewing your vow of the Bodhisattva. And we are here because you inspire us, and we want to engage in wise action as well. And so, Your Holiness, my question is this: what would you like to say to the thousands of us with you right now from all over the globe that encourages practical action to make the world a better place?
ngade nyindarish ando juju labjin juju da juju chig dawange samdan de dagde shengi dunga da yanda chawar mashana ene kasha sanje yin de meto jo khoda ya dewa mes da shendu zo chachigi 지금 서버 상고시 매나 산지지 고와 토야다 가와여데 미즈텔이 이네 기부야면도스 다그때 생기 등에다 야다 저월 마셔도 산지이 또 미르 코하나야 대화 대외 경에 그세 전주심께 따셔네 대내 대화를 줘하라 심시 수시 기루주스 디 시부지 심시 게알 패시우 팽기도 봐 나티 책디니 나를 시던데기 자상아 슬립이 보고 제르부시다 보이지버리 제니 다 전주 섬다 돈이 다 삼루수스탄에서네 그 제르부시 보이지버디기 샴진시메다 사버지 자연구도
So, I mean, in my own case, as I mentioned before, what gives me a lot of strength and courage and confidence is continual renewal of the altruistic orientation of the heart. And as I cited before from Shantideva, who, these are verses that I chant regularly and, reflect deeply on them. Shantideva says that if one does not switch self and others, let alone attainment of Buddhahood, even in this life, there's no real, source of joy. Therefore, what wise person, intelligent person wouldn't embark on a journey where one is able to move from a place of joy to joy by mounting this horse of altruistic intention. So for me personally, contemplating on these verses, thinking about them, renewing my altruistic orientation really helps. So what we need is on the part of each individual, some way of finding that kind of renewal of their intention, their courage and their confidence. And for me, of course, a large part of that comes from sources like the Shantideva's text and contemplation on the teaching on philosophy of emptiness. So this union of method and wisdom. And I sometimes, brag that I was born in the same region as the great Tsongkhapa. He was also from Amdo. I'm from Amdo. So it looks like, judging by what I have been able to do, at least in my personal practice, so far, I don't seem to be dragging down Tsongkhapa's name by saying we were born in the same region.
Well, thank you, Your Holiness. It's certainly powerful to invoke the name of Jay Rinpoche when we're talking about wisdom and compassion. No question about it. We have one last question for you, actually, Your Holiness. And this question is a little different. It's actually a question that's kind of really, in a sense, for scientists. But before saying more, I'm just going to turn it over to Professor Shioda. Lani, would you go ahead and please ask our last question, number 7.
Thank you, John. So, Your Holiness, during an early Mind and Life event many years ago, psychology researchers asked for your advice on what they should study. Your response was that they should do research on mental training, on how it affects the mind and the brain. Your advice has led to a great deal of research on mindfulness and compassion practices, giving rise to a large body of what is today called contemplative science. Your Holiness, my question for you is, how would you answer this question now, in 2021? What do you think those of us who study the mind and behavior, psychologists, neuroscientists, and clinical scientists, should be studying next?
Rita, and Samkam Ripoti, Takarangazzo, Gongen Shebada, Yilu, Yiginam Shichani. Dan the Chanju Sun the Doni Dawas Ledu, Yilu, Yilukan Tukuyorba, Gongen Sheba Marbata. Chasangada, Gongen Shebe, Chilug Nizu Tongdar, Nijedi, Tell Taken Chani, Samria, Godu Soyadi, Yilutene Yukuyorba. Da Chasanga, the Kanda, Sem Joyadi, Yilu Namshadi Yago Shevache, Sata Delia, and the Chenribu, Leve Chenribu Dinim Dolanga Kistos, Yondeg Yori. Sata and the Gongen Sheba Mayimbe, Yilu Dodandi, Lebadan Draw Kadis Yedeme, or the Digitane, any da Kandachi Leve Yuotane, or Samcom Ripin Yuodra, Kawridi, Yene Ongu Shevada, Yi Namshik Dodan to the Teddy, Leve change with the Nimdola, Kuduche, Jenny, da Kanda change with Samcom Ripin call, or Tona Young to the Teddy, da Samcom Ripin call ya, any Tonachi Yunduzane, da Chir Sanjevich, Yang 아다 나렌제다 캐원즈 그게 가시오래 지금 롱상을 겹치고 많이 봐 리베람네도 스타제샤니 간다 배나 루주기 슝도 샤샤나我们早些时候参拜，只是拿了日不可的住的不是嘛多，龙给住起，是他们的瓜，的，真的那个龙的这一呢，个是龙的啥呢？搞不就过的这，用这个的话是日本的早点的这个，但的这个三个日本的这呢，都是俺是上大了，但的判断都。
So when we talk about mental training, one very fundamental distinction we need to make from an epistemological perspective is the difference between what in the Buddhist literature or Indian philosophical literature we talk about sensory experiences on the one hand and mental experiences on the other. Of course, we know from personal experience that many of even the mental experiences are led by sensory experiences. You know, the things that we see, hear, and come into contact, then they give rise to, sensations and feelings and thoughts and emotions and so on. But the fact remains still that these modalities are different, and the experience of unhappiness and happiness takes place at the level of the mind, not at the level of the senses. So when we are talking about mental training, such as cultivation of the altruistic orientation of the mind, as well as wisdom of emptiness and all of this, we're really talking at the level of the mind, not at the level of the senses. So because of this, I've had quite a lot of discussions with neuroscientists in trying to see if there are any ways in which correlations of the mental level experiences can be mapped out at the brain level, just as the sensory experiences are mapped out at the brain level. So that's an interesting discussion. And another important thing is that when it comes to understanding the nature of mind and functions of various facets of the mind, Buddhist tradition in general, and particularly the Nalanda tradition, is very rich in resources. And one of the remarkable features of the Nalanda tradition is, although it is a Buddhist tradition, it's a tradition that does not prioritize the authority of the scripture. So, for example, if you look at the great masters like Nagarjuna's, fundamental treatise on the middle way, there's very little scriptural authority being cited. It's really a series of arguments and rational arguments and reasoning. And in fact, in some cases, masters like Nagarjuna would interpret a literal meaning of go beyond the literal meaning of a particular statement attributed to the Buddha, and just not accept it at the face value, so the reason is prioritized. So I think it would be wonderful if there is a way in which there could be a deep collaborative research where this, the reason-based approach that is found in the Nalanda, as well as the resources that are presented in the domain of mind science from the Nalanda tradition, could be somehow, combined, not combined, but come into a dialogue and collaborative research with modern researchers, scientists, so that there could be a more kind of richer conversation. That's one possible kind of area of that could be done.
Tini shesin samu jigrun dini ngongo mili kiawo ye ngebar tokyun dini sanja shenya shenji tu chue min gyuru sene ne de yin de choje langbo de choje zhabo de de tenjung ge tekona ni be dene daksam sia de tulu chu yo maris de tulu mo chur ni ene bangsam shena tekedo ma os
So, and of course, the Nalanda tradition is not a monolithic tradition. It's very pluralistic. And so, for example, like the great thinker Chandrakirti, even takes masters like Dignaga and Dharmakirti and others as object of criticism, and pointing out that even these great masters still retain some vestiges of clinging to a notion of objectivity, and saying that they haven't realized the full truth. So it's a very pluralistic world with a lot of diverse perspective, but all emphasizing the centrality of the reasoning.
Also, das ist aber Katholia, Shezongbe Shesin, Longji Changbeina, and Kathol Mishamu Beche, the Kusha Chorwa. In a Shude, and a Seminalalia, and a Chabo Mojong Sadi Tangudua.
Holiness was saying that this said, this statement about the centrality of reasoning, but in actual practice, in the monastic debating courtyards, when someone is sitting down and another person is, opening a line of attack or a questioning, and then when the person cites an authority of a scripture, a great master's statement, there's a difference, at least accorded by taking the hat off. so in practice, it doesn't happen completely all the time. Yeah.
Your Holiness, I would love to see us do a little debate, but we are running a little low on time. So I was told, however, that we do have time for 2 more questions. I think pretty short questions. So with that in mind, actually, I'd like to now turn it to, and for our translators, I'll say this is question number 4 in our list of questions. I'd love to turn it now over to Professor Shiota again. I think this is a really interesting question, Your Holiness, that you'll be able to give us a great answer to. Lonnie?
Thank you, John. So this is a hard question, and it is one many of us are facing right now. Your Holiness, you mentioned the importance of common humanity. But right now, one of the challenges that we face is how divided we feel from each other. We have different worldviews. We have different beliefs about the pandemic, about climate change, about how people should behave toward each other. And we may perceive that those who believe and act differently are doing tremendous harm. These perceptions lead to destructive fear and anger. I have very dear friends, good people, who are terrified. They are frightened for themselves. They are frightened for their children. They are frightened for their communities. They are frightened for humanity and for our future, and they are angry. They want to argue and fight with people who disagree with them, and they want to try to convince those others that they are wrong. Research in my field of social psychology shows that this does not work. It never works. If anything, arguing with people, trying to convince them that you are right and they are wrong, usually pushes them to even more extreme beliefs than they initially held. So, Your Holiness, I have a 2-part question for you. First, by what mental process or technique can we generate compassion, loving kindness, and a feeling of one humanity toward those people we believe are causing damage in the world? And second, how can we talk with those people in a way that will be constructive rather than destructive?
Dida Zabuli di Galia Chigi Kasure. The Mijan Tundu che, and Mikdu Kora Chigi Semki Shiti call Shaki Shig Yamarbata. Chazanga Anzo and the Tagi Mishkeshun Samchu. Also Lobsan Nalia, Chi Buchunju Gala, Chi Chamni said, Isha catch up Yori, and also Lobjan are the Shuduzane, and Chamzi said, you call Shang came into go. The Chamzi said, Chu Gizik Mari, 미심 기부서야 심 흘려요야 아니 심 흘려주나 그래서 인터내셔널 지기 최로 남지기 싫어디디 심 흘려주나 야우지 가게 도그러 심 부수도고체 심 추다나 최로 남지기 싫어기 이게 가서 우리 냠십지하고요 연금이 되고 사들이 인도 잠닝지서야디 겨응시 계시게 말이 미스다갈이야 간다지 심 시디 주야지다 심 시디 중나 애니 나서 레버디 배수 야우시셔야지.
So one of the big problem that we humans face is that often when we look at situations, we tend to get so caught up in a view of reality that is very short term, very immediate, and very obvious. We don't open up to be able to see beyond certain things that we see. So, and for this, one of the things that is really most helpful is finding on the part of individuals ourselves, a way to first relax our mind so that we have a deeper kind of sense of peace within us. And that's one of the reasons why I often emphasize that we need to focus more on the younger generation, the new generation, so that we can teach some of these skills from a very early age. Because children, when they are very small, consideration of others, compassion, loving kindness come quite natural. It's because they are very strong social emotions. They come naturally. But as we grow up through education, formal education, often we sort of extract these out of the children. So then, we lose touch with what is very natural, basic to us. So I think this is key. So the point here is that on our part, individually, we need to find a way to create that sense of space in us where there is a peace, where there is a more relaxed state of mind. Because if we don't have that, then our mind becomes very anxious and very restless. And with an anxious and restless mind, then we are not able to use even our intellect properly. So even if we may have a very good rational argument, but if our mind is disturbed, we are not in a position to, first of all, think through clearly, and secondly, to be able to articulate them. So one suggestion I have is to really kind of first work at this cultivation of a deeper sense of peace oneself.
Thank you, Your Holiness. We've been speaking a lot about small actions actually that we can take. This also raises the question of a sense of that confidence that you were speaking about, our own personal confidence. Sometimes we can have doubts about whether we are really making a difference in the world. With that in mind, I'm going to ask Professor Shiota to ask, this is actually our last question. I'm going to ask Lani to ask this final question. Lani?
Your Holiness, thank you so much for this wonderful evening. I have one more question for you, which is, can you help us and those who are listening tonight, the thousands of people who are listening tonight, to understand how our small acts of kindness and compassion can matter, even when we face problems as vast as the coronavirus pandemic, climate change, and war?
죄송하다. 지금 선거 상고잖아. 지금 강의 체배 그들이 그 동년시야데 숙체 시도로 지금 선거 공조서야 돼. 암자是대비는 지 경의 체배에는 심 shum돼야지 모두 영향을 두고 서다 간다 만주 밀이야 최루도 남지기 싫어야지 예배 인도산에 대영화래야 심그 시디디 쉬우지 개셔 버리셔 심그 시디야 그 자월어디 선거 상고치야 되기 심 시디야 그 자월어 차대요래 또 누구세나 거라 커도다가 심그 시디지고 샤면 되고 꼭 간다 가란서 저기 되게 쉬우려한다 이기 넘버 10에 고 가서 그래. 누구로 차상지 떠나려야 심 시대과에 배 개셔버리셔.
So, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, one of the most important thing on the part of us as individuals is to really focus on, as much as possible, trying to bring more compassion as part of our everyday intention. Because if we are able to bring compassion as part of our intention, and then it also creates more courage in us, and also we're in a better position to even deal with challenges and difficulties because there is a greater courage. Whereas if we give in to fear, anxiety, and so on, then we, even when we are confronting a challenge, we are not in a position to actually fully utilize the resources that we have been gifted as human beings with the ability to rationally think through. So what this suggests is that even for us to exercise our rational faculty, some degree of a settled mind, a peace of mind, is needed. And there is nothing more powerful than cultivating a more compassionate intention as a way of creating that, the peace. Because it's difficult to say that there is this thing that you can do to have that kind of intention. It's a sort of a, it needs a more broader approach, the way you see the world, the way you see yourself, the way in which you view your relationship with us, the way in which you view others. And in this kind of more broad-based approach, then things will change. So it's difficult to say you can do this as if there is only one thing.
Okay.
Your Holiness, thank you very much for what has been a really tremendously powerful dialogue. I'm sure that the audience joins me in appreciating everything that we've managed to cover tonight. So much more to say. But now we'd like to ask our two scientists to share a few final thoughts that will focus actually on their own views of concrete action. And I'd like to begin with Professor Eppel. Alyssa?
Thank you, John. We see the importance of joy and of finding both inner joy and noticing the good things that are around, right? So that the news brings us to think that people have terrible behavior during COVID. And the fact is, the most common behavior is kindness, is helping others. We just don't find that on the news. So we have been so inspired by the documentary of Mission Joy, showing His Holiness with his friend Archbishop Tutu. And what you see and hear is tremendous, a life of tremendous purpose despite adversity, laughter. And so with Peggy Callahan, the documentary group, documentarian, and a group of researchers, we've created a platform to study joy, to give people practices so they can find the subtle joy in each day, doing an act of kindness, gratitude, noticing nature, the beauty and wonder. And so we would love people to try it, and we will learn from it. And our biggest goal is just to spread joy. So this can be found on the Minds and Life website.
Thank you very much, Alyssa. And finally, Professor Shiota, Lani, will you share your final thoughts?
Absolutely. Thanks, John. I got 3 things. Thing 1, make room for joy. And joy is restorative. It is not passive. It is not my well-being alone that matters. Taking time to savor what is good in life builds our strength and reminds us there is actually something worth fighting for. This is the opposite of despair. Number 2, go do something. Go make yourself useful. Constructive action aimed at improving the situation, even if it is small, local action, has the double benefit, as His Holiness shared with us earlier, of making a difference in the world and also helping us to feel okay. Constructive action can help stabilize your own situation, but we have all encouraged moving forward to spread those benefits out into the world as well, because none of us can solve the problems that we face alone. But together, we do have tremendous power. And that is something that everyone who has spoken tonight has mentioned. Number 3, our common humanity is everything. I am a social psychologist. We are dark, cynical people who study everything is wrong with human beings. And one thing we have learned is that every human atrocity begins with dehumanizing the other. This is a slippery slope. If you do not understand the perspective of people that you disagree with, go learn about it. Try to find out and understand where they are coming from, how their experience and worldview differ from your own, and listen rather than trying to convince. If we all make an effort to do that, maybe we will be able to find common ground and get through this together.
Thank you so much, Lonnie. Your Holiness, it has been really a very rich dialogue filled with many gems. One of them actually that really struck me right at the beginning was simply your observation that in a certain way, we are the ones who have created our problems. But also then the message that was an equally profound and important message is we also have the capacity to overcome them. In a certain way, the challenges we face actually are also opportunities. And the message here that Lonnie has also just expressed, and also Alyssa as well, is a message that you emphasize so much, which is the importance of our common humanity, the oneness of our humanity. And realizing that as individuals, from what you have told us tonight, rests so importantly on the combination of wisdom and compassion, of seeing clearly and also connecting with others. That sense of our own capacity is something that I hope all of us fills all of us with hope. And that as we go on from tonight, that we will feel really energized and filled with hope, but also filled with the confidence that together we can really do something that will lead to that long view that you mentioned, Your Holiness, where we will eventually overcome these challenges and create even a better world. So thank you very much, Your Holiness, for spending this time with us. And now for our final remarks, I will turn it over to the President of Mind and Life, my friend, Susan Bauer-Wu. Susan.
Thank you so much, John. Deep appreciation, Your Holiness, for spending all this time with us and for sharing your wisdom. So many wonderful reminders for the moment that we're in human history. And gratitude to the panel, Alyssa, Lonnie, John. It's a great panel. Thank you so much. All of us at Mind and Life wish Your Holiness continued good health. And we look forward to being together with you next year, hopefully in person. And until then, may Your Holiness and the many thousands of people joining us from all over the world right now, may you be safe and well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The Mind and Life institution. It's a life. When we use the word life, plant, these things also have some kind of life. But mind is something more complicated. The most, anyway, the troublemaker is our mind. Mind thinking right way, even difficult circumstances, you can keep peace of mind. If mind with suspicion, anger, like that, and even you say your room, very comfortable room, your mind may not be peaceful, including sound sleep. For me, a 9-hour sleep, always very peaceful. No anger, no fear. Very important. So therefore, you see, this is the question is happy person with peace of mind. That's our aim. Not talking next life, not talking about Buddha, not talking about God. Simply how to build happy, peaceful individual. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you again. And I think a Mind Life Institute, I think really has created a lot of new awareness. So I very much appreciate all those members who are working in our Mind Life Institute. I really appreciate. Thank you. Please carry continuously. So obviously, as I mentioned earlier, previously always look external thing. Now, more and more people, you see, paying more attention about our mind, a question of peace of mind. So our institution really very, very helpful. Thank you very much. And the future, occasionally we will get a meeting. So till next meeting come, each day, each night should practice peace of mind, compassionate mind, so that, you see, each night, each day, be happy. Okay, thank you.